All right, welcome back, guys, to Dual Threat Podcast, your daily news source for all things sports. I'm here with Logan. My name's Michael. And if you can't tell by the picture, we're going to be talking about reasons why Michael Jordan is the GOAT. We're going to be specifically going over stuff that LeBron fans say to say that LeBron is the GOAT, and we're going to be debunking them. And so before we get started, don't forget, follow us on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button, and you can follow us on TikTok too. We also have a podcast on Spotify. If you don't have time to watch anything on YouTube or TikTok or read up on Twitter, you can just put some headphones in and listen on Spotify. So without further ado, Logan and I are going to hop into it and get started.
Yeah, so to start us off, let's go ahead and talk about one of the more hotly debated topics of Michael Jordan going 1-9 in the playoffs in his first 3 years without Pippen, while LeBron obviously has never lost in the first round of the playoffs. So my biggest problem with this one is that LeBron didn't even make the playoffs the first 3 years of his career. Sorry, the first 2 years of his career. So similar to the argument that LeBron goes to the finals more often than Jordan, and LeBron fans like to penalize Jordan for not even making the finals, I think you can use that argument against yourself here, in that LeBron didn't even make the finals. Sorry, make the playoffs.
I mean, I agree. And like, you look at the teams that MJ faced in the first round, because LeBron fans really love to talk about, oh, well, he played the Warriors, so that finals loss shouldn't count. Well, if you look at the ESPN highest ranked teams, it's Michael Jordan's 96-97 Bulls. And the second highest ranked team is that Celtics team that he got swept by in the first round, is actually ranked higher than the Golden State team. Right. So that's something I understand. If LeBron or if MJ had played them in the finals, he probably would have a finals loss. But I don't think, if you're a LeBron fan and you're not holding a finals loss against LeBron because he played a really good team in the Warriors, I don't think with that mindset, then you can't hold that against MJ because he played a team with 5 Hall of Famers, 2 all defensive players of the year. Like, it was a crazy team, and I still think that that's a knock on MJ's record, but then I think you should also count that knock on a finals loss against LeBron's record as well, if you're going to be so adamant on that hurting MJ's resume.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's go ahead and dive into who Jordan faced in the first 3 rounds, or in the first 3 years of his career in the playoffs. So first off, his first playoff appearance was in 1985, his rookie year actually, and he faced the Milwaukee Bucks, who were the number 1 seed in the East. They had 2-time Defensive Player of the Year Sidney Moncrief, who is, by the way, is the only guard to have 2 Defensive Player of the Years, and he's only one of 4 guards to actually have the award at all. Jordan being another one of those players. And so against this Milwaukee Bucks team, Michael Jordan averaged 29 points a game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2.4 blocks, and 1.5 steals as a rookie. And keep in mind, he's getting guarded by the reigning 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Sidney Moncrief. In the second year of Jordan's career, he faced the 86 Celtics team that Michael just referenced. They had 67 wins in the regular season. They had 6 Hall of Famers, widely regarded as one of the best teams to ever play. And then he turns around and plays that same team again in 87. So I think it's rather unfair to talk about Jordan's record in the playoffs the first 3 years of his career, given he's playing more talented teams than LeBron was playing in the finals.
I agree. And like, you look at it too, and you can say, oh, well, people always love to say, like, oh, well, LeBron had that one game where he had a triple-double with 40 points against the Warriors. Like, he carried the team. Well, I mean, in 86, MJ had 2 games where he had 49 and 63. Like, back to back. And 63 is actually, correct me if I'm wrong, a postseason record for the highest scoring playoff game.
It is. Yeah. Isaiah Thomas actually came pretty close to it a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, 63 is still a record.
And so, like, it's not like MJ wasn't doing anything. Like, a lot of people probably, like, he was going off against these teams and doing really well. It was just really great teams that happened to meet him in the first round.
Right. It's also important to note, Jordan, in the second year of his career, in 85-86 season, he broke his foot in the 7th game of the year. And he only played, I think, 15 total regular season games. And then he walks into that Celtics powerhouse in 86, and he turns around and has 49 and 63 points after pretty much sitting the entire year out.
Yeah, I mean, on the stat sheet, he has 18 games played, but he has 7 games with under 20 minutes in each game. So, like,
Right, he was on minutes restriction.
yeah, he was on a really high minutes restriction. And so to turn around after having, I mean, coming back into the playoffs with some rust on him, as you could say, and to dominate against a team like that and just not come away with a win is like, I don't think you can hold that against him too much, but obviously people are going to because he didn't have Pippen and he didn't make it anywhere out of the first round.
Right. So the Bulls in '86, the season we were just talking about, when Jordan broke his foot, he comes back with I would say less than 15 games left in the season, and they weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. The doctor advised that he shouldn't play. His foot wasn't all the way healed, but Jordan has that mentality, like he wants to be out there, he wants to get the job done for his team, and he played on the broken foot and ended up taking them to the playoffs. Now, when you think about 2018, I believe, last year, when LeBron got hurt with that groin injury halfway through the season, he comes back with 25 games left. He comes out with that tweet like playoff mode activated or whatever.
Yeah.
And misses the playoffs. It's like a very similar situation.
Didn't he win only 2 games after tweeting that?
I believe so. I think his record after that tweet was like 4-14 or something. All right, this for me is probably the worst argument that LeBron fans make, is that LeBron is a better defender than Michael Jordan. Not only does Michael Jordan have more all defensive selections, he has a defensive player of the year, but the big argument that LeBron fans make is that LeBron is more versatile. And that really bothers me a lot because versatility doesn't really mean a lot in basketball. For instance, a good example I can give you is that Draymond Green is one of the most, if not the most versatile defenders in the league today. But nobody in their right mind would argue that Draymond Green is a better defender than prime Dwight or prime Ben Wallace, Dennis Rodman, all these guys that were great defenders, although he is more versatile.
Yeah. And I mean, personally, I would rather have someone that could lock up a 1 or a 2 and, like, lock them up rather than have someone that can guard a 1 and a 2 really well, or like kind of all right, and then but also guard a 3, 4, and 5. Like, just because you're taller doesn't mean you're a better defender. In the same way that like MJ averages the same amount of blocks as LeBron, but LeBron is just taller, so he can guard more of those positions. And so like when MJ was guarding those positions, he did really well, obviously, because he's a 9-time all-defensive player, while LeBron is just a 6-time all-defensive player. And like you were saying, versatility doesn't mean anything, because if it did, LeBron should be an all-defensive player every year, but he's not. And in the same way that Jordan has a defensive player of the year and LeBron doesn't.
So we just talked about defensive versatility. Another good example for you guys for offense is that Andrew Wiggins is obviously a way more versatile scorer than Shaq. And nobody would say that Shaq is a worse scorer than Andrew Wiggins. No. You know, it's like versatility. It doesn't mean really anything. That's kind of the best shutdown for that argument I think there is.
And you were saying earlier how Sidney Moncrief was the only guard to win Defensive Player of the Year twice. Jordan has won it once, and only 4 other guards in the NBA history have won it. But it mostly goes to big men. So that just shows you how dominant Jordan was on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to a guard standpoint, to be recognized as the greatest defensive player that year. And like I said, LeBron has never had that. So.
And I'm not a big defensive stats guy, but Jordan also did lead the league in steals 3 years of his career.
Yeah.
LeBron's obviously never done that, never led in a statistical category on defense. Although I don't want to talk too much about that because I'm not a huge believer in defensive stats, just thought I would mention it.
Yeah. And I mean, you could look at it and like MJ has 2 100-block seasons while LeBron has 0. And when you rank them in position for blocks like all time, LeBron is 4th and MJ is 2nd. And so like
relative to their positions.
Relative to LeBron is small forward, I'm putting him before he started playing point guard.
Right.
And so it just shows like you would assume, at least this would be my assumption, that someone who is taller should be getting more blocks. Like
right.
And MJ to average throughout their career the same amount and get those 100-block seasons, 2 of them, while LeBron has never done that before, and LeBron plays most of his time in the paint.
Yeah,
you could argue, because he's guarding bigger people. It's just kind of crazy, and so.
Yeah, exactly. So passing, I'll be the first person to say that LeBron is a better passer than Jordan. He definitely has better court vision, but I think that it's a lot closer than people think. And one of the main reasons for this, let me give y'all some stats right now. So LeBron averages 7.4 assists per game. This was taken before this new season. It might be up to 7.6 or 7.7 now, but around the 7 point something assists per game and 3.5 turnovers per game. That's a assisted turnover ratio of 2.11. That is dead last among all 29 NBA players who have averaged at least 7 assists on their career. Dead last. So a good example for this, you want to take it away? It's the shoot, I'm forgetting.
Oh yeah, no, Jameis Winston. Yeah, we talked about this. So, not this year in the NFL, but last year, Jameis Winston threw more touchdowns than Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. But that doesn't mean he's a better quarterback when it comes to passing. Obviously, I don't think anyone in their right mind who watches football at all would say that Jameis Winston is better than Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, because I think he had 33 touchdowns, which was second to Lamar Jackson. But he also threw 30 interceptions, which obviously is a worse ratio than we're talking about with LeBron. But when you're looking at it, you can't just look at what they do well when they have the ball in their hands. You have to look at what doesn't go right, and that's turnovers in the same way that interceptions are a part of that. And so you can't just say, well, LeBron's a better passer because he averages more. But yeah, no, with the turnovers that he averages more than Jordan, you can't say that. And yeah, you just wouldn't say that Jameis Winston's better than Tom Brady in the same way you can't say LeBron is a way better passer than Jordan. But I agree with you. I would say he makes more spectacular passes, like with his Hail Mary passes. Like that stuff's crazy. Mm-hmm. And he definitely has better court vision, but it, like you said, it's a lot closer than it seems.
Yeah, it comes with a consequence sometimes when you're throwing like 80-foot passes all across the court.
I mean, yeah, because if Jameis Winston's just going to chuck the ball up to Mike Evans when he's double covered, sometimes he's going to catch it, sometimes he's not.
Right. So you have to look at both sides. Just for reference, Jordan averages 5.3 assists per game, which is 2.1 less than LeBron, and 2.5 turnovers, which gives Jordan an assist turnover ratio of 2.3. Let's talk about the argument that Jordan needed Pippen to win. This one also really, really bothers me. So, as you guys probably know, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably somewhat of basketball fans. You have to understand that LeBron has never won a championship without another superstar on his team, at least one superstar. So LeBron needed D-Wade, he needed Chris Bosh, he needed Kevin Love, he needed Kyrie, and he needed Anthony Davis to win all 4 of his rings.
Yeah.
And he did everything in his power to build as many super teams as possible to get that done. And even so, he was 2 for 4 with the Heat.
Yeah.
And then 1 for 3 with the Cavs super team. And so, like, even with a super team, LeBron couldn't get it done. At least Jordan could get it done with what you would consider a super team, although it really isn't. It's just 2 guys that were.
I mean, yeah. So it's Pippen and Rodman, and more people focus on Pippen, but like you look at LeBron, he joined the Heat, which had Dwayne Wade, and the year before, Chris Bosh was on the Raptors, and he brought Chris Bosh in with him to make that the big 3. And then
that was promised to win 10.
That was promised to, yeah. And then he goes back and joins Irving and brings in Kevin Love, who was on Minnesota the year before. So you see, like, LeBron obviously knows he's struggling, and he's formulating these super teams. And the only time he has a winning record with a good team is this year with the Lakers in the finals, a winning record in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, and this isn't to discredit him at any, like,
no,
we like I said earlier, you need a superstar on your team, but that this is kind of to discredit the argument that Jordan needed Pippen, because even though, like, this would be like if LeBron just had Anthony Davis on his team for every year. Like, he would probably have more rings because Anthony Davis is a beast. But it just happened to be that MJ didn't feel the need to make a trade or leave the team in any way. He just stuck with what was there because it was working for him.
Yeah.
LeBron he lost 1-2 in a row, lost again with the Heat, and then was like, okay, I'm going to bring one to Cleveland. Eventually did that after going through that whole escapade with the Warriors, and then left again to join the Lakers. So, like, he's just leaving these teams and then getting other really good players on their team, which is basically like the equivalent to what Michael Jordan had. He's just different.
He's doing everything he can to get to the championship and to win it. And I think a lot of people forget sometimes that in 2017, when they shipped off Kyrie, or when Kyrie left to go to Boston, LeBron got Isaiah Thomas, who was coming off a 30-point season, shipped him away, got Dwayne Wade, got Derrick Rose. Like he's doing all these things, and by the way, they only played like 20 games and then they were shipped out of there. So like he's willing to just give his teammates away like Halloween candy if they don't work out, and get as many good guys as he can.
Yeah, he just basically becomes like the general manager of the team.
Right, he is.
He's like, yeah. Like we have the stats here, like while the players respectively are on the same team as him. So these are stats while Wade and Irving are with LeBron, and stats when Pippen is with Jordan. So Wade and Irving average 22 points a game each, while Pippen averages 17.7. Wade averages 4.8 assists, and Irving and Pippen both average 5.3 assists. The only statistic that Pippen really beats any of them in is rebounds, and he has 6.7, and the closest to that is Wade with 5.2, but Pippen is just a bigger guy. He's going to get rebounds. So, like, you have these really good players, all three of them really good, but LeBron's teammates are scoring more than Pippen, and they're getting just as many assists as Pippen. So, like, they're helping the team out at just as much, if not more, than Pippen.
Right, shooting better from the field as well.
At least offensively.
Excluding Kyrie, but he is a point guard. Yeah, and then so the other ones are Kevin Love, Chris Bosh, and Dennis Rodman. And so Kevin Love averaged 16.8, Chris Bosh averaged 17.4, Dennis Rodman averaged 5.2 points. There's a big difference there.
There is, and I mean, you can kind of credit that to maybe that wasn't Dennis Rodman's role.
Sure.
But still, like, when it comes to, like, the overall team, yes.
Absolutely. But Dennis Rodman's role was to get rebounds, play good defense, and block shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in terms of rebounds, Kevin Love averaged 10, Chris Bosh 7.4, Dennis Rodman 15.3. So Dennis Rodman has a clear edge in the rebounds.
Yeah, of course.
But then when you dive into assists, they're all pretty much the same. Blocks, Dennis Rodman averaged the fewest blocks of these two guys. Kevin Love averaging 0.5, Chris Bosh averaging 1 block, and Dennis Rodman averaging 0.3.
Yeah. So, like, when you say that Michael Jordan had these superstars on their team, it's a little more cut and clear when you look at the stats between Michael Jordan's superstars and LeBron's superstars, and you see that when it comes to points, LeBron's superstars are helping him out, at least offensively, a lot more. You have Dennis Rodman on the rebounds, but Chris Bosh and Kevin Love have more blocks. And so, like, that's not to say that Pippen and Dennis Rodman didn't do anything. That's kind of just to put into perspective. LeBron's teammates are really freaking good too.
Yeah.
And so
another argument is that LeBron makes his teammates better, while Jordan makes his teammates worse. And this is one of the worst arguments that LeBron fans make. Reason being, before they traded for Kevin Love and Kyrie, or before he teamed up with Kyrie and Kevin Love was averaging like 27 on the Timberwolves. Yeah. Gets traded to the Cavs to play with LeBron. LeBron forces him to shoot threes because it doesn't work well. Kevin Love posting up doesn't work well with LeBron's game of like drive and kick and stuff. And Kevin Love ends up averaging like 20 points a game after just averaging 27.
I think you said 20. I think he averaged 16.
Is it something? Okay.
It went down almost 10 points. You don't have to do as much when you have LeBron on your team. Right. But like, I don't like how people say that he made everyone better when they're statistically they got worse.
Yeah.
And so.
And stats don't tell the whole story.
No, they don't.
But like they shouldn't have traded for Kevin Love, or they shouldn't have tried to sign Kevin Love in free agency in the first place. He didn't fit the scheme at all. He crowded the lane.
Yeah.
And that alone made Kevin Love a way worse player.
Yeah.
And then you have Pippen, who comes in I believe in like the 88 draft, and he averaged like 8 points as a rookie, and then works with Michael Jordan, and eventually becomes a superstar that he is.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between that and the things that LeBron's teammates do when he's paired up with them.
Yeah, because you could just say like, well, you could argue that Michael Jordan made Scottie Pippen into the player that he is because Scottie Pippen grew up next to Michael. He trained with him all those years. And if he had a bad season, MJ didn't kick him out.
So we already covered who Jordan played in the first couple years of the playoffs. But let's talk about LeBron's first couple years in the playoffs. So most famously, the 2007 run. 2007, LeBron played a 41-win Wizards team in the first round, who had Gilbert Arenas was their best player. And then he turns around and plays the Nets with Vince Carter as really their only player. Antoine Jameson, I think, was on that team as well.
Yeah.
And doesn't really face a good team until he faced the 53-win Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. But the thing that people forget about the Pistons team that year is that they didn't have Ben Wallace. They'd recently traded him the year before. He went to the Bulls, I believe. But yeah, they didn't have their centerpiece, the multiple Defensive Player of the Year guy, who was really the glue of that Pistons team, which I think gave LeBron a huge advantage in winning that series.
Yeah, and I mean, they did have a lot of wins, but no one on that team was really a superstar. No one on that team averaged 20 points a game.
No.
And so, like, they're all good players, but
I think Hamilton averaged like 19, and that was their highest leading scorer.
Yeah, it was him, and then the next was Tayshaun Prince. Oh no, wait, and the next was Chauncey Billups with 17. So like, I mean, it's not like he went into that game playing a bunch of superstars that was like absolutely loaded.
Yeah,
like the people that MJ was playing in the first round.
Right. So, I mean, we're talking about LeBron playing a 53-win team in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jordan was playing a 67-win team in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
It just shows how weak the East really was in those early 2000s.
And then, I mean, yeah, it is impressive that he got to the finals, I guess, but then he goes to the finals to play a 58-win team and gets swept.
Right.
In the finals. So, like,
they were the 3 seed in the West that year. I think the Spurs were.
Yeah.
So they weren't even playing like a Golden State Warrior type team where you would expect a sweep. I understand LeBron's help was pretty limited, but the Cavs were good in 2007. They were the second team in the East. The West was just that much better, and that speaks volumes for why LeBron was able to make it to the finals so many times.
Yeah. But I mean, like, if you look at 2007, like, there was in that finals, at least, LeBron, since he got swept, so 4 games, he had 6, 5, and 6 turnovers. He had 14, 25, 25, 24 turnovers, and he only shot above 40% from the field once. And so, like, he's not, against these good teams, it's not just, like, him carrying a team like MJ was with 63 points, 40 points, like, dropping points on these teams' head. It's like, LeBron obviously had a difficult time scoring. I mean, 25 is not a bad game,
no.
But
when you're the centerpiece of an offense and you're, like, the ball is given to you to make those plays, averaging 25 is not going to cut it. I mean, you look at like Bradley Beal or Trae Young, even they can average 30 a game on a bad team. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, but yeah. So I think the 07 run is very overrated in LeBron fans' eyes. Or in my eyes for LeBron fans. I don't think that you can make that much of an argument for that because, like, to beat 2 40-win teams and then a 53-win team that just lost their best player is not that impressive to me. I mean, it is impressive, but, like,
yeah,
it's not like, it doesn't make him the GOAT by any means.
No, so another big one is 2011, which I've been waiting to talk about, as most MJ fans love to bring up. So LeBron in 2011, I'm sure as most of you know, lost to the Dallas Mavericks in the finals after he was paired up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in the team that was destined to win 8 championships. And LeBron was the 4th best player on the court that series. And this is your GOAT we're talking about. Yeah. He got outscored by Dwayne Wade, he got outscored by Dirk Nowitzki, and he got outscored by Jason Terry, who was coming off the bench for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
That's flat out embarrassing.
And I mean, I know, like, he didn't have a single game in this series above 25. He had 1 game with 8 points, something MJ was never even close to doing in a playoff series, was scoring. I don't think MJ ever scored below 20 in a playoff series. I could be really wrong with that, but I don't think he ever did. He had a game with 24, 20, 17, 8, 17, 21. So you're looking at LeBron, like, he didn't ever go off and do what his team needed him to do after promising all those rings, and especially being on a great team with D Wade and Chris Bosh. And the game he scored 8, he shot 27%. So it's not like, oh, he was sharing the ball, doing what he needed to do to help his team win. Like, no, he was just having trouble scoring and, like, wasn't doing GOAT material.
Right. And something else, another thing that most people forget is that Dirk actually had the flu that season. He had like 100-degree fevers before the games. Before Game 4, specifically the 8-point game you're talking about, the announcers a couple times mentioned how sick Dirk really was, which just shows. I mean, there's a clip of LeBron and Dwayne Wade actually laughing about how Dirk was sick before that game.
Y'all hear me cough? Think I'm sick.
And he turns around and loses that game. And they were up, I believe the Cavs were up, the Heat were up 2-1 in that series going into Game 4, like ready to seal the deal. And they have an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. LeBron doesn't score in the fourth quarter at all. He only has 2 rebounds. He has like 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
It's one of the, if not the worst fourth quarter playoff appearance or finals games of all time.